Hey Zen fam, it is me, being a little bit quieter because it's actually quite late, but I needed to be late so I could actually make this video because of the current quarantine situation. I'm having to do this video very late at night because my family is asleep upstairs. Anyway, don't click away from this video before the end because I've got a couple of little things I really want to say that are not entirely related to the video but semi-related to this video. Anyway, to the main crux of the matter. So you may have seen that very recently I put up a reaction video to the DualSense controller for PlayStation 5, the new DS5. At least we don't have to change the initials. And although I said in a previous video that I didn't want them to change these sticks, legs, handles, call them what you will, I really like this particular shape. I have to admit that the new shape I actually really like. You know, now upon reflection, I think it's actually, considering it's going to be a little bit bigger, possibly a teensy bit heavier, that might help in the grip. But there's some things I've noticed about the controller that I've not heard anybody else talk about, and I've seen more than my fair share of videos on this particular subject. For instance, I've noticed that like these sort of disc panels here, where the D-pad and the sacred symbols are, these are flat. However, on the DualSense controller, they are built into the curved nature of the face of the controller, which I actually think is quite nice. It gives it a natural position. It's almost more like like a stone on a beach or something. So they've kept the curve. They've got the what do I call it? Sorry, it's late and my brain is fried. With textured surface underneath, and I'm liking they've kept that. They've really worked the texture on the sticks. That's really nice. I'm very pleased with that. I'm liking the new triggers, because the new triggers are much like these, still got the rough texture, but just a little bit wider. And the bottom one seems to still have a bit of a kick out, like this one does. It doesn't have much of a kick out, but it does have some, and I think the new one also does too. Of course, as you've heard me talk in the past, one of the things I really hope for PlayStation 5 is that there'll still be a continuation of Share Factory, so I can make these wonderful videos. For you, of course. Looks like, from what they're saying, they've gotten rid of the share button, but have replaced it with the create button. And if that's the case, then it may very well be the idea that creation will be a big part, and therefore we will still have Share Factory. Now, whether or not Share Factory will still exist in name, if not in deed, is anybody's guess. A couple of the things I'd like to pose. One, we've not seen the underside of the controller. Now, Sony have said that they're working on battery life. They want to make sure that it does have a good battery life, considering all the extra tech they've wedged on in there. I would like to suppose, considering Sony has talked about the idea of being able to, expand the memory with a third-party hard drive, SSD hard drive expansion modules. One would like to suppose that perhaps a similar thing could be for the rechargeable battery of the DualSense. Perhaps the DualSense will have a removable portion where you can take out the reusable battery, buy a new one, and slot it in. So therefore you'll have the best of both worlds. You'll have the ability to replace just the battery when they could, to keep the controller going. So you'd have to go and buy an entire new controller just so you can have charge again. But you won't have the annoyance of continually going out and having to get double A's and running out of double A's and having to raid the remote for the TV so you can make your game system work, and then your TV doesn't work, and just nightmare. Now, that's just a guess, but it's something that Sony could be doing, because they haven't shown us the underside. And of course, the other reason they haven't shown us the underside is, will there be controls underneath? Much like on a Pro controller. Because as I said in the previous video, the D-pad looks more like that of a Pro controller, with the individual sort of inputs for the up, right, left, right, and down. Considering, like on a Pro controller, you have individualized input signal pickup for each one of the parts, instead of just a disc that flips about underneath. Have a little look at that, you'll see what I mean. It's interesting how they get around such things. Now, of course, the controls themselves, the actual sacred symbols, they're all the one colour, which is interesting. And we've seen the light come up through the light strip, no longer the light bar. And I like this for two reasons. One, it's obviously going to be much more power efficient, and than a great big light bar. But I think also the light strip will actually create a more definitive line profile for the PlayStation VR and whatever camera that the PlayStation 5 can be shipped with as a separate unit, obviously, because not everybody has VR, not everybody wants VR. And if Sony are smart, they'll sell the camera separate again, because that worked last time. If it's a strip, then that means it's more definitive shape. And considering that, the pickup on the present PlayStation camera is really particularly good, considering that, you can't see it here, but you've seen from the banner image of this channel and from all my other properties that my banner image is my DualShock 4 with my Zembloke decal over the light bar. And even with that in place, the PlayStation camera can still pick up my DualShock 4 for whatever it's got to do, whether it be signing the system in, or whether it be, tracking for PlayStation VR. So I like to think that this little line that runs across it will actually be better at that. In fact, if anything, it'll probably be more definitive, and it could actually improve tracking. I think, these are definitely considerations. I think one of the deepest considerations, of course, that people are talking about back and forth is how much the controller's design language leans forward to the possible design language of the actual PlayStation 5 itself. Will the system itself be a predominantly white system with black accents? And of course, we've all seen the various sort of controller mock-ups that people have done while making up a controller that's primarily coloured black and stuff like that. But what I have found interesting is, as you go back and look through the last 3 or so years worth of PlayStation peripherals that have come out, they too have been primarily white, or at least black and white. Look at the aim gun. That sucker is primarily white with a black trigger and the blue PlayStation Move-esque light ball. Then you look at the PlayStation VR. The PlayStation VR being pretty much a 50-50 split of black and white with blue lights. For the head tracking, the two on the back, the two around here, and the ones top and bottom of the screens. Yeah, so there seems to be that this could be a feature going forward of white, black, and a little bit of blue, which would lead me to think that there might very well be a display light on the system. Now, whether that be on the top or the front or some mixture of the both. Because there's always been, since PlayStation 2, there's always been a small light up element, which has only gotten to be more and more and more as the systems have grown and changed. So perhaps we'll have some element like that. Maybe even like this, maybe the grills will glow blue. Maybe the colour will change as to the different statuses of the system. Like when a PlayStation 4 is on standby, how you get that sort of orangey ready colour. And like when you get the boot up, you get that sort of warm green sort of hue. So there are definitely possibilities ahead. Now, of course, everybody is going, ooh, white electronics, they get dirty real fast. I mean, look at your original iPhones and how quickly they got manky. Now, yeah, okay, white can have a chance to get dirty. However, it does often tend to be slightly less of a dust magnet than a black electronic device. So there are pros and cons one way or the other. So yeah, I think we're in for some interesting choices and interesting design elements. And I, for one, am quite positive about the controller itself and furthermore about the system. And within that, I think there's been a lot of, weird talk around the actual system. Most primarily from like the whole fanboy console war nonsense brigade. Where we've had people going like, oh, the PlayStation 5 will be underpowered. When, okay, it's not pushing around this, it doesn't have the same grunt as the Xbox Series X. However, the power that it does have is using in a much more holistic fashion, a much more spread out fashion, and it's basically like how it is in motoring history. You take a car like, say, like an American muscle car, which is great in the straight. You put it in a drag race and it eats up road. But you put it on a European road and it struggles. All the twists and turns and ups and downs. But you take something like, like a really nice sort of high-end sports car from Europe, and it can handle the corners and it's got great suspension. It's all like got active this and blah blah that, and can keep the speed through the apex and all that kind of Jeremy Clarkson Top Gear power kind of stuff. And he talks all the technical stuff and how cars travel and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm not a total car guy. I know bits and pieces. I think that's what Sony have gone for. They've gone for the clever solutions. And I think when it all nets out at the end of the day, as I've said before, I think both systems will end up being roughly the same. Not exactly the same. One will do one thing and the other do another. And it's basically going to be, what do you want your system to do and how do you want to do it? And I think also it's just like a lot of people flitted over to PlayStation and they've been here since 2013 and now this is where all their mates are, and this is where their trophies are and all the stuff. And as much as I love the idea of backwards compatibility, I myself have said on a great many occasions in a great many places that I would love backwards compatibility for at least PlayStation 3. I know how tricky that is because, the way the PlayStation 3's chipset was set up, it was powerful, it was revolutionary, but it was also a real pig to program for. I mean, that's why the PlayStation 3 suffered for the first few years, aside from its incredibly high price point, was the fact that dev teams had real trouble, actually getting to grips with how to make games for that bad boy. I mean, it was a serious bit of kit, but it was also a complicated bit of kit. I mean, never forget, the United States Air Force had a bunch of them netted together to solve large computational problems. In fact, if anything, it was the PlayStation 3 that originally did the whole group computational power thing for, what was it called, Folding Home, which now apparently has come back for medical research for a particular thing that's happening at the moment. And I've seen Linus Tech Tips talk about this, so I think you might very well know what I'm talking about. And wrapped into that, I've seen all these scare tactics. There's like, oh, it won't do this, it won't do that, it'll overheat. You seriously think if the PlayStation 5 is that prone to overheating that they would just put it out and hope for the best? That's not how Sony work, guy. It really isn't. No electronics firm of any note works like that. It's just not how it goes. It really isn't. But the one disturbing thing I have seen, and this is part of the messages I spoke at the beginning of the video, is one of the things I've seen, and I've seen this time and again with console wars, and every time I see it, every 5 to 7 years, it becomes more depressing, because I'd like to think that by this point we would have moved on, we would have grown up, and we would have had a bit of a evolution of ideas. And here's what tires me out. For any of our gaming brothers and sisters who are in the LGBTQ community, the very sad idea that people will attack a console or the fan base of a console by using the term gay as a negative turn. It's just sad, and it's hateful, and quite frankly, it's beneath us as a community. Now, I'm not sound like I'm white knight and like, oh, look at you, SGW guy. I'm not that. It's like, I'm willing to admit that sometimes some of these communities do go a bit too far, and sometimes it's a bit too much of a PC swing. But the fact of the matter is, just didn't be mean, and didn't be like just taking something that you don't quite understand and turn it into a pejorative. Just because you're not gay. I mean, hell, I'm not gay. I mean, I've got a wife and kid, and I'm totally butter side up. But most of my life, I've had mates who are gay. But I've known some bi people. I've got at least, hang on this. Yeah, but 4 or 5 people in my life I've known, and 2 of them actively known, who are transgender. Or at least are becoming the other side. And, that's their life, that's their choice. They go, if that's what you want, pal, you go for it. You only live so long. It's like, you gotta make the happy happen where you can. And I'll be damned if I have somebody come into a community which I read and I enjoy and use that term. I smack it down every single time. I will not have that. I will not have racism, and I will not have sexism, and I most certainly will not have hate speech against the LGBT community, because as far as I'm concerned, they're humans like me, end of story. Now if you want to tap that in my comment section, then that is the only type of comment I will delete. People have said nasty things about me in my comment section, and I just let it slide. It's like, that's what YouTube is. But that's just me. But if people say stuff like that in my comment section, that's a reflection on my audience, and I don't want my audience to be labelled as that kind of hate. If that kind of comment comes in my comment section, that's the only kind of comment I will delete. People say stuff about me, and my preferred tactic is kill my kindness. You know, I just look for the positive. I mean, hell, if I wasn't able to look for the positive, do you think I would have been on YouTube this long? I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen some negativity. I don't give a monkeys. I'm me. I do me. You know, you wanna do you and be all mean and negative. You go right ahead, but don't expect me to follow you in that place. That's a bit rant. I know. The second message, if you're still here, and if you are, thank you very much. The second message is I need some tech help out there. As you know, I use the green screen capabilities of the PlayStation 4, the camera, and Share Factory to do all this wonderfulness. However, recently when I tried to do a stream, the last few weeks I've been streaming Death Stranding, as you've probably noticed, and I've not been doing face cam with that because it didn't feel right to do face cam with Death Stranding. It just felt like I'd be doing wrong by the game and wrong by Kojima. I know that sounds silly, I know, but that's what I felt, so that's what I did. Anyway, last week I went to stream as I normally do on a Thursday night, and I ended up only doing it having my audio come across because I normally am down in the bottom corner, and I use the green screen so it's just me and not my wall, because I don't want to take up too much of the screen real estate. I want you guys to be able to see the game but also still see me, and I find that's a thing that's big in streaming, that like you can see the player playing but not have to see his room or her room. And yeah, what I've been getting recently when I try to stream is I get a sort of green sort of digital mist behind me where you can partially see the green and you can partially see the game, and it never used to do that. And as you can see from here, the camera's working fine, the green screen's working fine, so it must be something in the actual Twitch, maybe, I don't know. Or maybe there's a setting I've hit and I don't understand, and haven't realised it. So if you know, then please do fill me in. And maybe there's something I've missed, that maybe I've changed the setting and not realised it, I don't know. Anyway, I've gone on for better part of 25 minutes, guys. I think it's probably time that I wrap this up. But if you have any additional thoughts on the DualSense controller, or indeed the PlayStation 5, or you have any knowledge to my technical issue, then please typey down below. Anyway, I'm gonna split, guys, so you know what the deal is. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. Of course, as always, aye, nae bother.